Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Breeze, Breezeway Productions' The Breeze, where we continue our coverage with this year's 2020 Cucalorus Film Festival official selections. And we have two wonderful filmmakers here with us today, and they are going to speak to us about their project, The Passing On. We have director Nathan Clarke and producer Lana Garland. How are you guys?
Great, thank you.
Excellent.
Very good. Thanks for coming on the show to talk today. Tell us a little bit about your project, The Passing On, which is an official selection this year. Who would like to start?
Nate?
Sure. Passing On is a story about the oldest African-American funeral home in San Antonio, Texas, and particularly one man, James Bryant, who in 2016 was named the National Embalmer of the Year. And he works in a tradition and in a legacy of Black funeral directors, morticians, that is beginning to disappear. And so one of the things that he is trying to do is to literally pass that tradition on to the next generation. And so the film is about the trials and tribulations of that process.
Very good, very good. Lana, how did you get involved with this film project and then become one of the main producers on the film?
Well, I was at the time a program director for the Southern Documentary Fund, and we had a relationship with Nate. Nate was working on another project called We All Die, which was a survey film about different death traditions amongst a variety of communities. And so he came to us one day and said, listen, I found this funeral home in San Antonio, Texas, and I really, really think there's a story here. Can you take a look at this? And so we looked at it, and I know this community so well. It's such a big part of the African American experience, and so we just started popcorning about what this community meant to me and all the different nuances and historical underpinnings that we really, really could kind of unearth in a film like this. And so not shortly after that, I left the Southern Documentary Fund, and then Nate reached out and said, well, will you be a producer on this? And so that's how it began.
There you go. That's how you do old-fashioned networking and communicating, and then before you know it, you got teamwork and a film launching from the ground up. So Nate, when you came to her with this project saying that there was something there, what did you see? What did you see that really inspired you to want to make this a film and then really get the ball rolling on it? What sparked your motivation to do this?
Yeah, I think that initially, I need to have a sense of personal connection to something. And I've gotten to a point in my career, I'm now in my middle age, where I spend a lot of time thinking about, handing on the skills and the abilities that I've sort of garnered in my career to sort of the next generation, right? And so as I watched James work, James is sort of our main character, not sort of, he is. As I watched James work with a younger generation of upcoming embalmers, there was just some way that he interacted with them that I found really wonderful to just observe and to watch. And so that was sort of the entree into it, this relationship, this mentoring, sort of handing off your legacy. And then as we began to dig deeper and deeper into the story, we began to understand more, through long conversations with Lana, through interviews with James and with Clarence, one of the other characters, the unique place that the funeral home had and has in the Black community in San Antonio, and then in other cities as well. And so that became a point for us to begin to explore as well.
Okay. What would you say the connection of the themes are? You have the African-American community and the mortician embalming community also put together. What kind of themes does this generate for the film that really kind of bring a topic to the surface, so to say? Do you understand what I'm saying? How does it connect and how does it help expand in that regard?
Well, the interesting thing about this particular story is that, along this journey, we learned some things about the embalming and mortician and funeral home community. And one is that many of them are also ministers. And so that's something that, people don't really realize. And so, you see this, even the elder and the mentee both have that in common. However, their approach to Christianity is somewhat different just by the mere fact that one is gay and one is not. So the one thing that it does, it brings into there's this intersection that happens between African American, Christian, and queer. It gives an opportunity for a conversation that sets it up in a way in which people feel as though, okay, well, we're all good here. We're all trying to get through our lives, do the right thing, but there's this thing we have to talk about. So there's an intersection that's happening there, and then there's also a conversation around how gentrification affects not only culture but also business. And so there is, as gentrification makes its way throughout communities, we're experiencing a loss of these African American funeral homes because when Black people are displaced, Black businesses are displaced. So it allows for that conversation to come to the fore as well.
Yeah. Well, I hope that it doesn't affect the community negatively, but it seems like just because of the way things that are happening, it's happening regardless. Okay, what do you want audiences to take away from the film after they've seen it? Is there something that you're looking to change within like the community development, so to say, as you're saying that it's losing a sense of culture because of this gentrification? Or is there something a little bit deeper about the passing on that people should be aware of?
I think one thing is just awareness. I didn't know that this was the case of African American funeral homes. I didn't know they were going away. I always assumed they would be around. But if you consider that last year, the last African American funeral home in Washington, D.C. closed. Now, this is a city we used to call Chocolate City because it was so Black. And so when you lose that, the likelihood of trying to rebuild that and bring it back is really, really difficult. And so I thought early on that this project would want to help stem the tide and allow for those businesses to keep going. But our executive producer, Tamara Tooney, who's an actress and she was the medical examiner on Law and Order SVU for many years, and she grew up in the funeral home. And I was talking to her about this, and she said to me, Lana, it may not be the case that these businesses come back, but maybe they come back in a new way, in a different kind of way. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to save the Black funeral business, but maybe with this film, we're at least able to start thinking of other ways to kind of have that kind of experience and have that kind of both cultural and economic mainstay that we so needed for so long.
Yeah. Well said. I believe that your film, as you said, will bring awareness to this. I personally didn't know that field that it was specific. I knew about like the morticians and the funeral homes, but I didn't know that it was broken down into a sect of African American funeral homes and other demographic funeral homes, which I guess means that there's like different practices that are included in it, different communities that come together for it, and really it's just kind of an eye-opening showcase of something that people are not aware of or privy to. Okay, in closing.
Well, let me just say that it happened that way because African Americans weren't allowed to go to white funeral homes. I mean, that's why it was that way. And because of that, there were also, we also developed cultural practices around that. So it was out of necessity, not necessarily, it was just decided that it would occur that way.
Yeah. This dates back a really long time ago, since when segregation and it was not that the African American demographic had to do things in a certain way because it was not allowed in mainstream society or white America, so to say. So that's why there's a history to it. And then this film showcases the history of that and hoping to preserve, if not and bring awareness towards these things that were happening. Do you think that's about right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, I hope to showcase the film, the Passing On, to our audiences, and that we do bring some awareness to the project. And congratulations again on being accepted to Cucalorus this year. In closing, is there anything that you'd like to say to the Cucalorus Film Festival organization, Nate, for the acceptance this year?
Yeah, I mean, we deeply appreciate it, and we have a sense of Lana in North Carolina, I'm in Virginia, and so we have a sense of what Cucalorus is about and the types of films that they program. We've had a chance to watch some other ones, and to be included in that history of Cucalorus, and then this sort of current moment, and the amount of creative thinking that they're trying to do about how to throw a film festival in the midst of COVID. It really is a real honor to be part of that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again for speaking with me, and I will be showcasing this interview about the Passing On, and again, congratulations for your acceptance to Cucalorus this year.